Eternals, issue number 7. That's right, folks. This is the first Eternals book to come out since the release of the movie. Now, something you should know before you jump into this book, because it even says on the cover, this is a new arc you can jump on right here. Kieran Gillen has said this is a place to jump on. This is very different than the movie. Now, I'm not going to spoil the movie for you here. I will point out that the characters in the movie are the central characters in this book, and Thanos is here too. Because in the comic books, I don't know how they're going to change things for live action, yada yada yada. Thanos is part Eternal with a deviant defect in him. So in the last issue itself, we saw kind of this big reveal that the Eternals can come back from the dead because they are resurrected with the soul of a person in essence, and it kills somebody. Throughout the book, we saw Icarus following this child named Toby Robson, and Toby Robson died when Icarus was resurrected. We also saw that in some tie-in books that I didn't cover on the channel, Ajak and Makari are kind of back in prominence in some way. There's a couple tie-ins that came out before this issue and after issue 6. I didn't cover them because they weren't super important, but you should know that they exist. So this book is kind of split into 3 separate stories, the first of which is this journey we are seeing with Cersei, Kingo, and Thena. They are going to the home of the Deviants. We meet the on-again, off-again lover that is currently happening with Thena. His name is Tulu, and basically he's trying to just be an artist in the world of the Deviants. But we see a bunch of these creatures notice the Eternals are here and they're ready to attack, but the king of the Eternals is Crow, and Crow is back here. This is, of course, the ex-lover of Thena, and a character who does appear in the movie. We won't get into it much here, but I think Crow's been kind of absent throughout most of this book. We haven't actually seen him in any of the earlier issues, so it kind of makes sense that now he'd be appearing because of his movie appearance, and also because, it's time you put him in here. He's in there. So basically, we want to settle the truce between the Eternals and the Deviants, but because of the shared history between Crow, Thena, and what's going on with Talo right now, it's best that Thena doesn't get involved in the actual peace treaty with all that stuff, so Crew goes to talk to Cersei. And basically, again, he's being kind of flirtatious with her. He's like, why don't we have this discussion over a couple drinks? We could just have dinner, have a good thing going on there. She's like, well, that's probably a bad idea. He's like, yeah, it's such a bad idea that we should do it. So they go to do that, and it's kind of fun. That's one of the main parts of this story. We are seeing the divide between the Eternals and the Deviants being lifted, so they might come together to learn their true place in the universe now that the Celestials are all dead. That's a fun thing to explore. The other part of this book that we do see is the tragedy of Icarus. He is experiencing this loss for the first time, kind of learning what happened and what his purpose is in the world now that he knows that he takes the life of a human every time he comes back. It is breaking him. Sprite and Fastos try to cheer him up, but it doesn't really work. He's like, I gotta try to figure out how to console my own grief and the grief of those I left behind. So he wants to go talk to Toby Robson's parents, and on his way to do so, he runs into Jack of Knives. This is kind of a lesser known Eternal, one that's not in the movie, I will say that right now, and she is just kind of okay. Basically, the machine who does the narration throughout this book is telling us Jack of Knives would be if Icarus called himself the Arrow, this is a deceitful, vicious person who's willing to do these evil things, and basically, Jack of Knives has always known what the consequences were for coming back as an Eternal, and their reasoning is just of course we come back. Look at how many humans come forward in a day. Hundreds of years ago, it was 1 billion people. Now there's 8 billion people. Their lives are constantly growing. Who's going to miss a few when we pass? It's and secondly, this doesn't matter. This is nonsense, but if you tell people how we come back and what our purpose is, if you spoil this or shout it from the rooftops, I'm going to kill you. And when I keep killing you, more people are going to die. Do you want that blood on your hands because you are spoiling our secret? Very interesting stuff. I think that's very strong. And it goes again to this big theme of what is life when you are immortal? And I think it's very cool that we're playing with this concept. And again, I know some people are going to have their opinions on Icarus after watching the film, but this is how he has always been portrayed. He is kind of the stick in the mud. He is kind of the Boy Scout. He is not Superman in essence that he is like this pure goodness, but he feels the grief of humanity and the pain of it all in different ways than a lot of the other characters, which is a very fun thing to explore. And this is a really good interpretation of dealing with that pain. So it's kind of like he has his scene with Jack of Knives, and he's like, well, I just want to know what to do with this pain I feel. So he goes to talk to Toby Robson's mother. He's like, I can't, help you. I can't make amends, but I can be here if you need me. And she scolds him. She's yelling at him. And he just accepts it because what was he to do? He doesn't know anything else in the situation. This is just his life. And now he's accepted that. And it's kind of like a theme I know Kieran Gillen plays a lot with. That's the tortured hero. But it really works when you have the entirety of the other Eternals not dealing with the ramifications of their actions. They're just more people like, yeah, this is us. We live, we die, we come back. But of course Icarus is going to overreact to that situation. That has been his characterization, and that matters a lot to me. I think it's really cool. So we have, the Deviants and the Eternals potentially working together. We have Icarus dealing with his collective grief. The other part of this story is the stuff with Druig and Thanos. Now basically, there was a Thanos tie-in that I didn't read and I didn't cover. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of just like establishing Thanos as going to be a main character in here. And I think it's great. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Thanos. He's not a character I've particularly enjoyed. But when you're doing something with him, do this political intrigue. I think it's fantastic. The side plot here of Thanos is kind of, we're going to literally make him an Eternal. Druig's plan is, I am never going to be the one in front of the cameras. I'm never going to be like the face of an operation. I could be the brain. I can be the snake that slithers into your ear and tells you what to do, but I will never be the face of an operation. So my goal is with you, Thanos, we are going to make you the Prime Eternal. There's a big Unimind happening very soon. All these Eternals are going to come together and think of these thoughts, and basically all the ones that would vote you out of becoming the Prime Eternal and replacing Zuros, they're not going to make it. I've literally ran the math, and we see a schematic show up, and we see that the machine gives us the who's going to vote for who, and it's like, well, okay, here on Olympia, these people would vote for him. Here on Polaria and the Hex, all these people, these are the people that are going to vote for Thanos, and why they would do that over Zuros. And basically running the tolls, it's either 14 to 18 or 17 to 18 in favor of Thanos. It's very fascinating, and again, Druig is a character in the movie. I'll say that right now. He's a main character in the film. Is this the accurate interpretation that we see in the film? Not really. It does. We won't get into that, but this is a great use of the character. He's just like, yeah, I know change needs to happen. I'm not going to be the guy that brings change because everybody knows I'm the trickster. I'm the deceitful one. But you, Thanos, you can bring the change because people already fear you. And when you step in line to become the Prime Eternal, they're going to see that we mean business. So basically, the agreement is made, and we see that Thanos and Druig are going to work together to make him the Prime Eternal. It's kind of exciting to see. We also get a small moment where we see Turlo, who is sculpting the statue of Thena and him, and basically he's talking to Cersei and Kingo. Like, I know my time's limited. I have made a lot of mistakes here, and now the crew's back, he's gonna do stuff to me. I don't got much time left, and we see that Turlo's probably going to die by the end of this arc or this book. Which isn't that surprising at all, because that character's pretty much been primed for death since his conception. Interesting to play with, kind of fun to see. I like it a lot. This is so good. And, I've kind of talked a little bit of shit earlier on about Asad Ribic's art, because it's very stylistic, it's very a certain aesthetic, and I have slowly over time grown to like it a little bit more. There's something beautiful and prestigious about it that I'm just starting to feel my connection to, and maybe it was just like having that little break where he wasn't doing the artwork for a bit, and I can come in here and just be like, oh yes, this is very nice. And it just works really well for the Eternals, giving it that kind of like, perfected, fantastical look of like an oil painting. It's very cool to see and looks very shiny. So, with all of that happening, we cut back to the chamber of the Unimind on Olympia. Zuros is like, okay guys, let's all connect together. You're going to vote for me to be your new, Prime Eternal. It's all going to be great. But as they make this Unimind, Druig comes into play and he's like, but let me give you a little morsel of what else you could have. And suddenly, all the votes start rolling in because none of the Eternals we've been following are there to vote for anybody. Thanos becomes the Prime Eternal. Now, this is what you should do with Thanos. Like, this is perfect. He's not over there screwing up every book in the Marvel Universe. He's just over here screwing up the Eternals because that's how you're going to get people to read this book. He's a big enough character that he would be a lead. So I think that makes perfect sense. This, of course, pisses off Zeros, and he attacks. But again, twice in a week, Thanos reminds him, stop it. Okay, I'm putting you in his place. And he kills Zeros again. And you see Druig in the background like, oh, this is going according to plan. But of course, you're dealing with the Mad Titan here. So he just instantly crushes Druig's head on the ground. And he's like, whatever Thanos desires is what Thanos is going to get. And that is where the book ends, with Thanos literally defeating those who have helped him get to the position of Prime Eternal. That's awesome, because this is what you do with Thanos. You know, he is intrinsically connected to these characters, so let him do something with that. I think it's very cool. I just like the way this book is going. It's very high concept science fiction. It's very beautiful. It's very historical. I just think it's great. It's different than the movie, so if you want to read this book after seeing the movie or before seeing the movie, this is better than the movie. I will say this just flows better, it reads better, and it's more ethereal and beautiful than that film is. It's a good movie in some aspects, but this book just sells you on what these characters should be, and it's very cool. So Eternals, issue number 7, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.